is Madam Grace from KICD, and we have invited her, and we believe that we will be able to work with her. She has also been one of our parents in the past, and a person who is well known in the education circles. Karibu sana, you can kick off.
Asante sana. Thank you very much once again, Elder Sami Chege. So I had been asked to talk about the role of parents in competency-based curriculum. And I am certainly very excited to do that because I work for Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, the agency that was mandated by the government of Kenya to review the curriculum and hence the competence-based curriculum that is under implementation. So we'll be focusing on the role of parents in competency-based curriculum, and that picture just gives us a glimpse of what you're supposed to be talking about, that supporting children in their learning endeavors is a joint venture, especially where we have two parents, we should actually be involved. And I'm also saying that besides supporting the child at home front, we also have a role to engage with learning institutions to support children to continue learning. And from KICD's perspective, we believe that parents continue to be educators of their children. They were the first and continuing educators of their children. And so the fact that children go to school does not mean that you actually stop being an educator to your child. We would not be asking you to support, or rather to teach children competency-based curriculum, but you have a role as first nurturer and a continuing educator of the child. You'll be seeing what your role is as we continue to do this presentation. So you have a shared responsibility with schools to provide an enabling environment that is conducive to learning and which motivates children to achieve their full potential. So if your child is going to achieve full potential as far as academic achievement is concerned, as far as holistic development is concerned, you have a role to play in actually creating an enabling environment. And that role is shared between you and learning institution. So, of course, many of us who have done some bit of research on the effect of parenting on learners' academic achievement will agree with me that indeed children who are supported by their parents tend to perform better than children who are not supported by the parents. So we are calling upon parents to really feel obliged to support the children, because the end result, the outcome of that will be that these children are likely to excel. And so we need to build an effective partnership between parents, schools, and the community to support children's learning for improved learning outcomes. And I'm hoping that as I talk about parents, you will recall I'm talking about mothers and fathers. And one of the things I noticed when I was a parent at Sukari Presbyterian Academy is that this school is fairly unique in the sense that I would see quite a number of fathers being involved in the learning process of their children, unlike many other institutions where fathers tend to relegate their role to the periphery, and it's the mothers who would be attending meetings, the mothers would be supporting children to do their homework. So parental empowerment and engagement is actually one of the guiding principles in the competency-based curriculum. So parents have ceased to be our secondary target in CBC. You are our primary target. You are our primary target just like the learners themselves are. And so your role is extremely critical. I know one of the things I'm supposed to do as I take you through CBC is to actually help you to have a firm grasp of what CBC is all about. Essentially because your children are going through this new curriculum. But secondly, you're also supposed to be responding to the issues that your fellow parents or members of the community would want to ask with regard to competency-based curriculum. So this 1 hour, I am hoping that you'll be able to understand where we are coming from, where we are, and the salient issues that make CBC very, very different from 844. So I want to share with us the rationale behind the curriculum reform process. And I want to start by saying that CBC is actually homegrown. It is not a foreign curriculum that was imported to Kenya. It is homegrown, but also very well informed by the international standards, and at the same time informed by best practices from other countries that are excelling as far as CBC is concerned. So that should be one of the messages that we should internalize and share with the others, that indeed CBC is homegrown curriculum. It was not imported from somewhere else, as a number of people tend to believe. And the reason as to why we decided to reform the curriculum is to first and foremost align it with a number of recommendations that were given by different task forces that were initiated by the government of Kenya to advise the government of Kenya on matters of education and with specific reference to the curriculum. So there was a task force that was formulated a while back called the Realignment of the Education Sector to Vision 2030 and the Constitution 2010. You realize Vision 2030 and the Constitution 2010 came after 844, found 844 going on. And because there are salient issues that touch on education in these two serious government blueprints, it was very, very important for us to consider reforming the curriculum so that we are helping the government of Kenya to achieve these aspirations. So this task force actually recommended for competency-based curriculum, and the idea was that 844 was not flexible enough to create pathways for children to have many options, so that if, for instance, I am more endowed as far as sporting activity is concerned, can I pursue that as a profession? If I'm more inclined to science-oriented subjects, can I be supported from the word go so that I am becoming prowess in the areas I am good at, looking at my personality and my natural aptitude, so that I can now pursue what is also available. So the three pathways at the senior school now provides an opportunity for children to pursue areas and career choices that are in tandem with their personality, career choices that are in tandem with their interests and their natural abilities. Then, of course, many of us know that for a long time in this country, we have been focusing on summative evaluation, what we would call the national exam that is given by the Kenya National Examination Council. And so the issue of mean score has been the main driving force as far as learning in this country is concerned. We have tended to focus so much on the intellectual development of the child at the expense of other dimensions that affect the overall development of that child. And so there was need for us to come up with a national learning assessment system that will be moral, that will focus on what we call formative assessment, assessing as learning is going on, as opposed to waiting until the end of a certain level, like say class 8 or form 4, to assess the child in a one-time national examination. And so in CBC, we are now saying that continuous assessment, which we are calling formative assessment, will also play a very critical role in determining the end evaluation of that child in every level of education. And I'm sure parents are happy to hear that, because something can happen to me when I'm just about to sit for my national examination. I could get ill, or I could even get bereaved, or something would just happen to upset my ability to now express my prowess on matters, on what I've already learned. So when you do formative assessment to form part of the national evaluation at the end of every level of education, then I'll not be disadvantaged. Then, of course, there was also a recommendation that we need to introduce national values and national cohesion, and those should be integrated in the curriculum. And I want to say that out of the 17 national values that are very well stipulated in the Constitution of Kenya 2010, we have identified 8 values that you have also included in competency-based curriculum. There's a national behavior crisis in this country, and you have become a valueless society. We need to save the generation the younger generation by introducing values. Peradventure, this generation will be saved. So we want character formation to be a key thing in the education process. And the 8 values through that will be introduced through the value-based education through the whole school approach will indeed support in addressing the national behavior crisis that we have in this country. Of course, the Constitution of Kenya, I said, was promulgated after 844, just about 11 years ago. And so we needed to now reform the curriculum to make sure that the issues articulated in the Constitution of Kenya have also been mainstreamed in the curriculum. Then we have Kenya Vision 2030, their recommendations that are touching on the education pillar. We need to integrate early childhood into primary education. You know, for a long time, early childhood was actually a preserve of the community. Communities would establish nursery schools, and whatever goes on there would be determined by either the proprietor of the school or the community. But now we are saying that early childhood forms part of the primary education level. We needed to reform secondary curricula, again, to talk about so that we can have the 3 pathways. So we've talked about education commissions. We've talked about the Constitution of Kenya. We've talked about the Kenya Vision 2030. All those important government blueprints have really been persuading the Ministry of Education to actually reform education so that we can support this nation to achieve those aspirations. So the Kenya Vision 2030 talks about reforming secondary curricula. And in CBC now we have 3 pathways. We have performing arts, we have humanities, and we have the sciences. Then, of course, modernizing teacher training, we have done that. We've already developed, now primary school teachers will have to be going through a diploma course as opposed to certificate course, which is CBC compliant. Of course, we have also developed a very special program for learners with special needs. They'll go through either adapted curricula or a curriculum we are calling stage-based curricula. And in this stage-based curricula, we are focusing on learners with severe disabilities or multiple disabilities. They don't have to go through the same curricula the regular learners have to pursue because of their disabilities. And yet, they will not be disadvantaged because they'll also be doing a national curriculum. Then, of course, 844, before we started phasing it out, we did an evaluation. And the evaluation report indicated that actually we need to reform the curriculum because there is very little use of formative assessment. I talked about that. And then there were also skills gaps identified. We had relegated serious academic disciplines like agriculture, entrepreneurial, vocational and technical skills, innovations, and creativity to the periphery as far as 844 is concerned. And so we needed to come up with a curriculum that will now focus on those aspects either as academic disciplines or the competencies that we shall be talking about. ICT integration is actually one of the competencies, and many other areas that 844 was not able to consider. Then, you know, Kenya is actually a member of the East African Community Protocol. And in East African Community, we have what we call Curriculum Development Regional Center. And I want to report that Kenya was actually identified as a center of excellence for East African Community. So what happened is that we developed a framework on harmonization of curricula, structure, and examinations in the East African Community Protocol, so that now if our children move from Kenya to, say, Rwanda, they should be absorbed in the world of work, because the curriculum we are taking them through to a large extent has been standardized. There are contextual issues, of course, but it is highly standardized and harmonized. So now you can see we are moving towards embracing the concept of the world becoming a global village, but you have to start with the region itself. So the East African Community has a framework on curriculum formulation and the structure. And we have to subscribe to that. And that is why we had to reform our curriculum. I want to mention that in East African community, Kenya had the longest primary education level period. Others will be having 6 years of primary education, others 7 years of primary education. But Kenya had 8 years of primary education, actually plus 3 years of nursery nursery education. So we realize that we are putting our children in primary level education for so long, even compared to the other countries in the region and even globally. Then, according to global standards, we are supposed to review the curriculum after every 5 years. Now, I am embarrassed to say that we have taken about 35 years to actually reform the curriculum. We've done minor reviews and they'll not even be done after every 5 years. So this reform is long overdue, according to the UNESCO International Bureau of Education, which regulates curricula globally. And so we needed to reform the curriculum so that we can be in tandem with what is happening in the world. Then, of course, we had to benchmark with best international practices, and many countries are now moving away from content-based curriculum to competence-based curriculum. Many of us who went through the earlier, before the 844 curricula, and the 844 curriculum will bear me witness that there is a lot of knowledge acquisition at the expense of skills development in 844. So we are saying we now want to focus on competencies, what I'm able to do much more as opposed to what I know. And of course, finally, we needed to focus on the 21st century learning skills and approaches. 21st century learning skills have been identified as very core skills if every country is planning to support their children to become globally competitive. And 844 had not considered the 21st century skills as much. Hence, they need to reform the curriculum. And I just want to show you some of the 21st century skills that every learner should actually possess if you're going to be globally competitive. If you're going to develop global citizenry, we need to embrace those 21st century skills. A 21st century learner should be a self-directed learner. And CBC, you will agree with me, especially if you have children in 844, you will agree with me that children who are pursuing CBC are more self-directed. They tend also to be effective communicators much more because of the competence called self-efficacy. They can actually just communicate confidently. They'll even ask you to excuse them. They'll say, "Excuse me, ma'am. You know, you've talked for too long. Can I also share my views kindly?" We want 21st century learners should also be problem solvers. That's why we give them project work. And when we give them project work or assignment that should support learning at home, we expect you to create a conducive learning environment at home. For them to start solving some of the problems, simple problems that could also be existing at home or in the community. I just want to give an example. The literacy levels in Kenya are still not to a very desirable level. And there are some children in a particular county who decided to actually do a project on increasing literacy levels among elderly people in their community. Men and women who would even want to read their Bibles, but they can't read because they are not literate. And these little boys and girls decided we are going to pick one or two old elderly people, and we actually help them to know how to read and write. So that was a problem in the society, and children who are going through CBC have decided they want to address that challenge. So a 21st century learner is a problem solver. They are civically engaged. They own their nation, they become patriotic because of the national values that we've talked about, and they become civically engaged. They are supposed to be critical thinkers. That's why one of the core competencies is actually critical thinking. We want them to become collaborators as opposed to being competitors, even in the learning process. We want them to be collaborators at home front, in school, in places of worship, in the community. We want them to be people who are endowed with general knowledge, information and media literate. We want them to be financially and economically literate. And that is why I'm happy that Mama Claire has actually joined us to tell us about a project that the son did when they were actually in grade 2. An amazing project. You not believe that boys and girls at that age can do something. We want them to be innovators. So those are some of the 21st century skills that you want our learners to possess. Having said that, I am sure many of us are wondering, so how is CBC different from 844? And I have just given us a very simple diagram that will help you to see what you are focusing more on and what we are focusing on. We are reducing our focus on. So we are moving from less content to more competences. Content is about knowledge. And now I want children to do what we call inquiry-based learning. So I don't have to go to class being preoccupied as a teacher with this too much knowledge that I want to pump into the learner's head. I want them to take charge of their learning process, and I'll just be facilitating learning as a teacher. So the teachers are now becoming more of facilitators as opposed to teachers. So kindly parents, do not push our teachers by telling them, oh, sasa sioni wanaandikaga nini siku hizi. Hata siku hizi hawaandiki, kazi yao ni kuchora-chora tu na kucheza-cheza. We are now focusing on, we are moving from more content into, we are now focusing on reducing the content, but increasing the ability of the learner to develop competencies. And that is the way the world is going. Then our curriculum will be less rigid. In the past, it has been very, very rigid and prescriptive with limited flexibility. And now we are saying it will be very, very flexible. Again, because of the pathways that we are talking about, especially in senior school, that I'll be allowed, my parent and my teacher can support me to choose what I want to do. Unlike during our time where the teachers would decide which subjects we'll have to choose in Form 3. Now there'll be 3 pathways, and as early as grade 7, you can start deciding what you want to do as a learner. And because you will have helped your the parents and the teachers to know how talented, in which areas you're talented in, then the parents and the teachers will actually have to support me to do what I want to do. So there'll be more flexibility, and there'll be opportunities for specializations through the pathways. Then 844 really focus so much on summative assessment. I think I've talked about that. High-stake exams, as opposed to competence-based curriculum, where we shall be focusing on formative assessment, that I have to keep engaging as a teacher and as a parent. Let us keep finding out, have you been able to achieve the expected learning outcomes for this week? And feedback is being given to the teacher. And by the end of the term, what I have achieved will not go to waste. At the end of that year, it will not go to waste, because at the end of my level, that is now, say, grade 6, all this will be considered for my summative assessment. Then, of course, 844, there was a lot of emphasis on schooling. And that's why, of course, we've been talking about 100% enrollment. But now there'll be emphasis on education. It is not good enough to just take children to school. We also want to ask ourselves, are they acquiring quality education? Are we creating a conducive environment for learning to take place? So it's not just about parents buying school uniform, paying school fees, and taking kids to school, and teachers receiving them. It's about whether the learning is taking place. And you'll be talking about creating a conducive environment for children to learn. And finally, a major paradigm shift is that there'll be less teaching and more of learning. So the focus will be on learning experiences as opposed to teaching experiences. So now you can see the teacher is going to be more of a facilitator as opposed to being a teacher. Why? Because the concern here is learning. So children will be exposed more to learning experiences, learning activities, and less teaching experiences. And your teachers have been trained. We'll be happy to keep training them every so often when the chance is given to us and when we have the time, so that they can embrace the paradigm shift in the what we call pedagogy of teaching. We want them to be more of facilitators as opposed to teaching, as opposed to being teachers. I now want to stop here and invite Mama Kingoina, who is also called Miss Claire. Is she in the house? Maybe I should actually just find out first whether she's there.
Yes.
Wow, thank you very, very much. I am so grateful that this amazing lady has found time to come and join me to co-facilitate with me. I visited a school called Children in a Freedom School in Lanet in Nakuru, and I had gone to collect data on parental empowerment and engagement. We wanted to find out, especially during COVID time, how are parents managing learning at home? How are parents supporting children to learn, even during COVID time? But beyond that, how have parents, what is the level of knowledge of parents as far as CBC is concerned? And when I got there, I met the school proprietor because it's a private school. And she told me, I think one of the best things that you can do is to actually interview a parent and get to hear how we have supported parents so they can continue supporting children to learn. And so as we reflect on our role in CBC, it's my pleasure now to invite Madam Claire to share with us how she supported her child in project work. Because I know one of the areas that parents are really struggling to do is to create time and to provide resources to support children to do project work. Tunasema hiyo ni kazi ya walimu na watoto wajipange na tunajiondoa wenyewe. But yet we are saying learning should actually happen in school, but learning also should happen outside the four walls of the classroom. Learning should actually continue happening at home. And that is even where learners can practically, apply the knowledge they have acquired and the competence they have acquired, from school. So I want to invite Madam Claire to take over and talk about project work from CBC perspective with a practical example from her own son. Over to you, Claire. Can we clap for her as she comes over? Okay, you can e-clap, eh?
Thank you.
Okay. So, Claire, do you want to use the screen? Do you want to use the screen?
No.
Eh?
Okay, thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. My name is Claire, as you have heard. I'm one of the parents in Children in Freedom School in Nakuru, Lanet. I want to share an experience. That I've had with my 7-year-old son with this CBC. I want to start with how it started, and then I will give a conclusion later. So it was during the COVID-19, and then the children were able to learn online. And so this boy was given a project. It was a financial literacy week. And so they were told, like the whole class was told, you come up with a business idea. Then he came home, then he's like, I want to do something, I want to come up with an idea. I tried to push him to do a different thing, but he insisted that I want to do something with making juices or something in the kitchen. At 7 years, I was a bit scared, like, what is this guy going to do in the kitchen? But I allowed him to try out something. So he made the juice, we tested, we enjoyed. And then the next day they were told, now we want you to do the project that you did, and then you sell to your parents. So the boy was able to sell to us at 200 shillings. Still, I didn't take it so serious, but we took the videos, we sent them to school. So later, like, he was given a chance because he was maybe among the best who did good projects that could generate income. So he was given a chance to take the Jesus to school. So there is where I want to emphasize on parents' role in our children's education. So when he was given a chance to take the Jesus to school, I tried and I went out of my way. I did a brand for him. Like, I asked him, which name will you like to call your business or your juices? Then he told me we use his name, which is Kerama Juices. I did that. I printed the labels. I looked for the disposable cups, the straws, and then we took the juices to school. He was able to sell at 4,500 shillings that day. So those were the profits. And I had an opportunity to tell him, like, what to do with the profits, how you take the capital aside and all that. So after, I didn't know it was such a big deal. I thought I was just doing something as a parent, but we took the videos, and then I took a videographer to take the videos because I wanted him maybe later to remember that at 7 years I made money. So I never thought that thing could kick up and be a different thing. So just as a parent, I hired videographers at 5,000, which didn't make a lot of sense to the dad, if I can put it that way, but I still did it. So later it came up as a big deal. The videos were shared. And right now he has a YouTube channel called Kerama Juices. You can search that on your YouTube and see what he was able to do. So the most interesting part is, at the end of the day, I asked him, what do you want to do with your money? Then he was like, I'm going to give you 500 shillings because you have supported me. I'm going to give daddy 200 shillings. Then, so he gave me a chance to, like, explain to him, like, parents are the same. So you give us 200 each. And then he was able to give the brother like 100 shillings. So I got so encouraged, like, at 7 years, I was able to, like, train a child on how to even share finances between your parents. There's none who is better than the other, which I couldn't have done until he's maybe 20 years or 25 years, when he could have gotten a job. So what do I want to say about the whole experience? Like, that guy, at the end of the term, he had like 50,000 in his account, which we didn't even know what to do with it. I didn't want him to use it as school fees. Right now, as we're speaking, he's able to, like, we are able to hire a few people to do the work for him. So we are just, he's doing natural juices. He's not adding any additives, so they're just fresh juices. So right now he's registered in a company, like he has a company, I can say that. And maybe what I want to say, children are given projects from school, and what do you do as a parent? Sometimes we complain a lot. We are like, we don't have time. What is this teacher doing? What is this CBC? We don't want to give it time. Maybe we should change that. Sometimes they have their own projects. We should support them. They have something, they want to try out something in the kitchen, then you are like, they're too young, it's not possible, they're wasting time. So let's support them and change that. Another point is, let's not force them to do what we want. We should not force them to do what we want. They're different, they have different passions. So we just need to give them opportunities to try out. So what is our role as parents in this CBC? We should provide materials. So sometimes they are told, go do this and this. You should provide them. It doesn't matter whether we are using a lot of money, or whether he's going to make money or not. Like now I took my money to buy the disposable cups. I took my time. I had to use videographers. I didn't know this guy was to make money, but I wanted him to remember in the future that I made money at some point. And so there's no way he should not make at his age. Okay, let's put more effort in our children's work, like it is our work, the way we work so hard to do our work, to meet deadlines. Let's also do that when it comes to our children's work. Let's take like an extra mile to make your child outstanding. So when they're given something, don't take it as a simple thing. It feels good when your child is outstanding, like he's known. Because one time I walked to a bank, then I was I was inquiring something. Then I introduced myself. So I was my name is Claire, and Claire Kerama. Then somebody asks me, are you by any chance associated to Kerama Juices? Then I'm like, where do you know these Kerama Juices? So let's go to an extra mile. Our children cannot make it by themselves. It is us to open the YouTubes. It's us to provide what they need. It's us to show them that you can. So let's go an extra mile. When they want something, support them. Children can do more than us, so let's not undermine them. Actually, they can make money. There's so many people, even us parents, who don't make such an amount in a month. They can even educate themselves. And we are outside here. We suffer. Sometimes we don't get enough to pay their school fees, and yet our children can. Give your children time to express themselves. Let's not push them like we want them to do something that we don't know if they have an interest in. Another point that I want to say is, let's support the teachers when the children are given some projects, some assignments. Let's take it positive and do something that is good, that is outstanding. I was trying to think of how to make this company stand on their own, because it was not something, I was not prepared for it. The orders started coming, people want juices, they're buying 5 liters. We sell 5 liters at 750. And I want to assure you that if it is those seasons that fruits are plenty, you make 500 per 5 liters. So your child just needs to sell maybe 10 of them. You'll be able to make 5,000. So if your child can make 5,000 per week, then that kid can even feed you. So I don't have much to say. Maybe I'll send the videos later if you allow me. You see the kind of work that he's able to do. You can subscribe to his channel, and the spelling for Kerama Juices is K-E or A nowadays, R-A-M-A, Kerama Juices. Thank you so much for your time. And I pray that God may give us more time, that we support our children. They can do more. The money that we struggle to look for, they can even assist us. Thank you so much. Have a good time.
Wow, thank you very, very much, Claire. I wish it was possible for us to just unmute and clap for her. But you can see that it is possible for us to actually support our children. Okay, let's clap for her. Just unmute and clap. We truly, truly, truly appreciate it. Okay. Asanteni sana. So Okay. So you can see that it is possible for parents to actually get so involved in the learning process of their children. And what we are asking parents from Sukari Presbyterian Academy is to actually support their children. Out of that very powerful disclosure from Mama Karema, you can now see that it is possible for parents to actually support their children in their project work. It can be fun, it can be very fulfilling. You will also be amazed at the kind of potential our children have. You can also see there is a lot of creativity and imagination that has been enhanced in this child. I remember how Claire would tell me that this young man would actually pick, I don't know whether it's her phone, to now start Googling to see what kind of projects he would do. And you'd also follow he'd follow the instructions on how to make the juice from the video. I'm talking to parents who probably, I'm almost sure, we can all afford a smartphone. And our children can use those smartphones to actually enhance their creativity and imagination and even identify the kind of projects they would like to do. Please allow the children to practice what they have learned in school at home. Please, parents, work very, very closely with the class teachers. You can see Mama Claire and the son were really supported by the school. When he went to take the video, when she took the video for the young man, and the school saw what the young man had done, they were greatly impressed. So you can see there is a symbiotic relationship between the teacher, the parent, and the learner to make this child succeed in school. But I want to stop here and invite some of the comments that you'd hear about this kind of disclosure that we have received from Claire. Anybody would like to make an observation? Anybody, please unmute. You could even just unmute and thank Claire for joining us all the way from Kisii. She's right now in Kisii, but they live in Nakuru. Lydia, do you want to say something? Yes.
Okay. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. We can, Rispa.
Yeah, I followed the story of Kirama, or the mother to Kirama, and it's so inspiring. I'm just amazed. I was even looking at the video as she was talking, the boy making the juices, blending the juices. It's amazing, even the way he's using that blender. It means that the boy really knows quite a lot. So I'm really inspired by the story, and I'm really thankful that she's agreed to share it with us, and also that we are inspired, because yes, this is new to us, especially for first-time mothers and this CBC thing, but I'm glad that we can hear this thing, and we would like to follow the footstep and support our kids. Yes, thank you so much for allowing yourself to share with us this story.
Thank you very much, Rispa, on behalf of Claire. Anybody else who'd want to make an observation, maybe a lesson you have also learned? And let us also note that Kirama was actually using locally available resources. If you went to the market today, it is possible to afford, a pawpaw or two, some watermelon. And so we are not talking about things that are really far-fetched. It is just about being creative, being an innovator, and just getting out there to use the locally available resources. So thank you very much once again, Claire, for sharing with us. I now want us to conclude our presentation. And I know there's a lot that we could say, but I know time is also not on our side. Could I ask that you give me like 5 minutes to just skim through a few other things that I wanted to share?
Yes.
Is that okay? Thank you. Okay, so with what we have shared, you can now see, in fact, even having talked about the paradigm shift, we are moving from 844 to CBC curricula. And you have seen the paradigm shift. So what is a vision? Even thinking about Kerama himself, what is a vision of CBC? The vision for CBC is to actually have an engaged, empowered, and ethical citizen. That is a vision for the new curriculum. We want our children at the end of every level of education to be engaged, empowered, and ethical. And by the time we are actually churning them out through the basic education, and basic education is from pre-primary to secondary, we want to have an individual who is engaged, empowered, and ethical citizen. And as Madam Claire was sharing, you could see this young man was engaged from the word go. They learned a concept in school. They came and they decided to actually take personal initiative to get into the YouTube and identify something they can do. They were fully engaged. But you can also see Kerama was actually empowered by both the parents and the teachers. And then you remember what she was talking about, the usage of money and how to even distribute the money. And at some point, they also didn't even want to expose the amount of money Kerama has used, has actually earned, all because of ethical issues. So you can see we are all determined to have an engaged, empowered, and ethical citizen. And it's not just the work of the teacher. It is also the work of the parents. So how are we going to do this? We shall have an engaged, an empowered, and ethical citizen by nurturing every learner's potential. So the mission for CBC is to nurture every learner's potential. And every learner's potential, actually the term every should be underlined. It does not matter how intellectually able your child is. What we want to do is to actually maximize their potential. If their potential is to probably get an average of, say, 50%, and that is their maximum potential, then we shall nurture that potential to make sure that that child gets there. If they can reach 80%, why not? Why not take them up to that level? And we can only do that. We can only nurture every learner's potential by identifying the potential they have and also making sure that you have created a conducive environment for that potential to be nurtured, and ultimately make sure that all the children you have, whether they're 2 or 3, that all of them have actually become successful in life. I do not want to talk about learners with special needs. If there's learners with special needs at SPA, I'll be very, very happy to talk about the different avenues you have for those ones. But for now, I just want to say that when we say every, we mean all learners. I want to say that CBC has what you also call pillars. There are 3 pillars in CBC. And the first pillar is values. Values is going to be a major pillar in CBC. I talked about behavior crisis in this country and the need for us to start developing, to start supporting children too. We should embark on character formation from a very, very early stage. And one way of doing that is to actually introduce the values that CBC is advocating for. There are 8 values. You can see there's a value of love, responsibility, respect, unity, peace, patriotism, social justice, and integrity. Now, these are 8 out of 17 values that the Constitution talks about. So one of the 3 pillars in curriculum, in competence-based curriculum, is values. I want to kindly ask if Elder Chege can allow KICD to continue supporting the parents. I would like to take you through a program called Values-Based Education through the whole school approach or through the whole family approach. It is going to be very, very, very critical for us to embrace values. But I want to say that let's keep remembering, there is no point of telling our children to keep loving each other, to love their parents, to love themselves, if they cannot see love oozing out of us or from us. the value of responsibility. How responsible are we as parents? How respectful are we? Are we united at family front? Are we united in church? Are we united in the community? Are we peaceable? Are we patriotic? Or we keep talking about, negative things about our country? Do we practice social justice? How do we treat our house helps? Do we recognize the need to promote human dignity, even as we relate with them? Are we men and women of integrity? We must lead by example, because values are caught, values are not necessarily taught. Values are caught, they are not necessarily taught. And children learn better by observing as opposed to hearing. So if there's a discrepancy between what they hear and what they see, chances are that they will learn to do what they see and not necessarily what they are taught. Then there are guiding principles that have continued to cause us to, there are guiding principles that we have observed as we continue to develop competency-based curriculum. The list is there, but you can see parental empowerment and engagement is one of the guiding principles. And that's why I say that parents are no longer going to be a secondary target, you're our primary target. Then theoretical approaches. People who think that we just sit in KICD and do our own things, kindly that is not the case. All our interventions are informed by theoretical framework. And we engage developmental psychologists to determine which content should be learned by learners in class. It is a very scientific approach that we have embraced to develop competency-based curriculum. There are 8 core competences. There are 7 competences that we talk about in CBC. We have communication and collaboration, citizenship, digital literacy, self-efficacy, learning to learn, critical thinking, and creativity and imagination. So there are 7 core competencies. And it would be interesting for you to even one of these days go to school and talk to the teachers and ask them, among the 7 core competencies, is my child having an issue, for instance, with citizenship? Because citizenship is about helping the child to be empathic towards members of the same nation, to be empathic with their fellow learners. Do they have a global outlook? How can we help them to even understand what is happening in the world? Are they good stewards of the resources we have? Are they responsible? Are they able to engage in the decision-making process, like Kerama, who said, Mom, please don't force me to do ABCD. I want to do ABCD. Get out of your way, create time, go to school and find out how the learner is, how your child is conceptualizing the competencies, because they need to conceptualize them for them to start developing them. And when they come home, allow them to practice this. Again, for the core competencies and the values, I really desire that opportunity can be created for me to really talk about this, but that we will share with you, with Elder Chege and the head teacher. I think I want to stop here. The rest are details that we can learn later on if we'll have another opportunity. I want to go to the conclusion so that I don't take a lot of your time. And I want to say that an empowered and an engaged parent would certainly have a positive impact on the overall development of the learner. So when SPA organizes for meetings for parents like this one, you become empowered. True or false, parents? I know there are some who are saying true, but they can't. Yes. Yes, thank you very much. So you should always avail yourself to be empowered by the school. You should go out of your way. I guess many of us, perhaps 95%, if not 99%, can read and write. Please get out of your way and try to access books or documents that have been written by the Ministry of Education or the government of Kenya, and even other documents that have been written by people outside this country on matters education. Read books on parenting skills. Just embrace the culture of reading with regard to parenting and the role of parents in the learning process of their children, so that you can be empowered. When you're empowered, then it is possible that you're going to engage. And so an empowered parent will engage in the learning process of their children, and that will have a positive impact on the overall development of the learner. And this impact can actually be seen through the acquisition and nurturing of moral and religious values. We've just talked about being pace setters, being exemplary, showing, demonstrating, or exhibiting the values we want to see our children nurturing. When you engage, when you're empowered and you're engaged, you will also begin to seriously think about provision of improved health and nutrition for your children, because you'll actually realize that the Constitution expects you to provide what? Balanced diet to your children. You're supposed to take them to hospital when they are unwell. An empowered parent and an engaged parent will have a positive impact on the overall development of their child in areas such as improved health and nutrition. And that is a constitutional duty. It's a constitutional obligation. But of course, we also know it's a biblical obligation that we should take care, we should be good stewards of the children God has given to us. Then there will be increased enrollment, retention, and transition, as well as academic achievements. So parents who are empowered will see the need to take their children to school. So enrollment will actually go without saying. Hatutagojea chief akuje tuulize kwa nini hatupeleki mtoto shule. I'm sure that's not a big problem here. But the issue of retention, are we able to retain children? And let me tell you, parents, there is a problem when we keep moving children from one school to another. Unless there's a very, very good reason, let us retain children in the learning institutions that we enrolled them. Maybe there's a problem, get in touch with the teachers, get in touch with the school, get in touch with the church, so that the child can be retained. If for one or the other reason a child is not, is almost getting out of hand, especially because of issues of indiscipline, there are other psychosocial support services that can be provided for the children. Let us normalize the need for child counseling, adolescence counseling. These are services, essential services that we can actually access, and they would play a very big role in supporting children to be retained in school. Then, of course, transition. I would not want to imagine that there is any parent here who would not work hard to make sure that the child has transitioned from, say, PP2 up to grade 1, then from grade 3 to grade 4, and they go all the way up to grade 6, and then from grade 6 to grade 7, and all the way. Then, of course, we can also see the impact as far as academic achievements are concerned, because you're supporting the child and you're also creating a conducive environment for the child. And finally, an empowered and an engaged parent will actually be very, very supportive of their children in the identification of appropriate career choices. How will this happen? It will happen this way. As you take your child to school in PP1, it is expected that a child should not just say, meet my daughter, Esther Nambale. You'll be saying a little more about Esther. I do not have time to talk about the Jewish phenomena, but it is our responsibility for those who are still giving birth, and you'll bring these children to go through this wonderful curriculum we have developed. Please, as you breastfeed those kids, just prayerfully ask God to help you to know who these children are. Because it's not just about the name to the child. It's not just about giving them food. It is about wanting to know how God has wired them up. It is about getting to understand their personality, their areas of weaknesses, their areas of strength, their natural abilities and aptitudes, their interests, so that all that will now inform issues of subject choices and career choices, so that in the long run, there'll be no mismatch between who I am and the career I choose. There is a very big percentage of Kenyans who belong to a dissatisfied workforce in this country. Why? Because there's a mismatch between who they are and the career they chose. And I know even among the parents that are listening to me today, maybe you just found yourself in that career because somebody forced you to do certain subjects, and then perhaps the marks could not allow you to do what you wanted to do, and now you're doing what you had not wanted to do. We have a chance now in CBC to start influencing. You can go to school and say, meet my daughter Esther. Esther, from the look of things, is likely to become an engineer. So meet engineer Esther. You start prophesying to the child from the word go, and let the teacher also embrace that concept. And together you work until you support Esther to pursue a pathway, a career pathway that is in tandem with their personality. I want to stop here and thank you everybody for listening to me. And I look forward to engaging a little more, even in different fora, because I have a passion to help parents in this country to understand their role in CBC. Otherwise, I coordinate parental empowerment and engagement at Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development. It was my initiative, and I want to thank God that SPA has given me an opportunity to interact with you this evening. Mubarikiwe sana.
Amen.
Mr. Mokui.
Amen.
Madam Grace, Deputy Director, Special Program.
Yes.
PD, we are very grateful for carrying us through the outline of the CBC. You have reminded us on, as parents, we need to provide the materials and support our children on the project they will be carrying. And then you have reminded us about the core competencies that our SPA children should be able to communicate and collaborate so that they can work together. They should be critical thinkers. They should have high creativity. They should be good citizens. And indeed, they should move out of SPA with the digital literacy as a core competence. They should have self-efficacy, and they should have learning to learn competence. Again, you have also reminded us about the values that our children should actually practice love, responsibility, respect, unity, peace. They should be patriotic, and finally, they should have high integrity as they grow. I would also want to thank our parents for being with us, for devoting themselves to listen what we had for them, so that we can work together and assist our children. I would also want to thank the organizers, especially Roda Chege, for organizing this program. And I would also request him to keep on organizing many programs on the same, so that we can sharpen one another. However, I would also want to apologize because many parents were locked out, but we shall look on what we can do so that we can also seminar them. I would also want the parent to know that Shukari Presbyterian Academy, we are well prepared to have 100% transition to the junior secondary. So we have started laying out all the modalities so that all our children are transited to our junior secondary. And then to add this, I want to request one parent to pray, to end with a word of prayer. Any frontier, one parent?
Maybe before he prays, we just request that you can share the recording, at least for those who joined the meeting a little bit late. Thank you.
We shall do that.
Excuse me, before the Reverend prays, because he's the chaplain of the church, I would like everybody else to remain muted, just to remind us that yes, we have had a shortage. This is Elder Shege, the chairman of the church. We are saying that in 2 weeks' time, God willing, we have realized what Grace is asking us. Madam, you're asking us about a partnership with KICD in training parents on how to handle the children in terms of the values and also the what we need to do. Since we have realized we need to do that partnership, in 2 weeks' time, we'll be on Zoom. Please note, today we have been failed by Google. Over 500 or so parents were locked out. We are very sorry. And kindly also, maybe you can also be sending your questions, and this recording has been done. It shall be available on YouTube, and we'll be able to send it to all parents. But for the rest, for the next time, because we realize that quite a number of people, they are writing comments requesting, we really left them out. This interaction, like Reverend promised us during the prize giving day, we are going to continue having enough engagements for our parents so that we can do the best for our children. I want to thank everybody, and I invite the minister to make one comment or two and then pray for us. Karibu mchungaji.
Thank you very much, our chair, and thank you, our facilitator, for the great job and great presentation. We apologize, as our chair has said, we would want to do the best that we can do. And thank you very much for teaching us on how we can partner. It's a journey we want to walk together, all of us. So shall we pray? Dear God, our loving Father, we thank you so much for giving us your servant to come and teach us in such a great way. And the way we have learned on our participation as parents, we ask that God, you continue helping us to partner with our children so that they can take their parts with our help and even the help of the teachers. We ask that God Almighty, you will bless us, the things that we have learned, to put them into practice. Most of all, we pray, since this CBC is new to many of us, that we keep planning and knowing. Give us a very good night, O Lord. Bless SPA. Bless all of us. And this is our prayer of faith in Jesus' name.
Amen.
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 Amen.